What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be a little different because this was suggested by a family member of mine, actually. This video is the worst year in WWE history. So yeah, if you guys do enjoy this video, please give it a like, subscribe. And yeah, let's get into it.
When the company's top guy was literally fed dog food on live television. A year that saw Goldberg and The Undertaker risk their life for the sweet Saudi money. When the Universal Champion lost all his aura by cowering in fear and getting buried in one of the worst Hell in a Cell matches of all time. When the feel-good story of the decade ended with an 8-second squash. When Cain Velasquez and Tyson Fury appeared in the WWE ring in matches literally nobody asked for. When watching Rusev get emasculated on worldwide TV was a weekly tradition. And these are just a few of the creative disasters that defined WWE in 2019. From a storytelling and booking standpoint, WWE in 2019 was absolute trash. Despite generating a record-breaking $960 million in revenue, the product on screen was arguably at its lowest point in decades. But what exactly made WWE in 2019 so universally hated by fans? What were the catastrophic matches, embarrassing moments, and questionable booking decisions that turned wrestling's biggest company into a laughingstock? How does WWE in 2019 compare to the product we see today? Let's rewind the clock and revisit what many consider to be the worst year in WWE history. As WWE is reportedly heading to Saudi Arabia for WrestleMafia 43, let's start with WWE's obsession with the Saudi shows in 2019.
Now they told me that this was one of the worst years, probably the worst year.
The year's Saudi disasters began with Super Showdown in June, headlined by what can...
Do you guys believe that 2019 was the worst year for WWE?
Can only be described as a potential manslaughter. The Undertaker versus Goldberg was supposed to be a dream match between two legends, but instead became a terrifying display of what happens when age catches up with part-time performers. This match was doomed even before the bell rang. Goldberg hit his head too damn hard on a door during his entrance, and gave him a concussion even before the match started. But that was just the beginning of this comedy of errors. 2 minutes into the match, Goldberg hit his head against the ring post while
Hold on, guys. Be 1 second. Okay, we're back.
Attempting a spear and made his concussion even worse. After this, Taker botched a tombstone and had the already concussed Goldberg go headfirst on the mat. In another comical effort, Goldberg nearly broke The Undertaker's neck with a botched jackhammer. The match dragged on for nearly 10 agonizing minutes, with both men stumbling around the ring like they were competing in a retirement home. Even the finish looked weird with a weak chokeslam, and Undertaker's face told the entire story. Two legends almost lost their life in the ring on that night. But the Saudi shows didn't stop there. Crown Jewel in October brought us even more nonsensical booking decisions. Cain Velasquez, the guy from UFC, was given a world title shot against Brock Lesnar after just one WWE match. The contest lasted barely 2 minutes and served no purpose other than to give Saudi audiences a mainstream name and make quick money. Even worse was the Tyson Fury versus Braun Strowman spectacle, which ended in countout. These Saudi shows represented everything wrong with WWE's approach in 2019. They prioritized celebrity cameos and part-timers over actual storytelling, threw together random matches with zero build-up, and consistently put performers in dangerous situations just to make bank. You can see the same reliance on celebrities and part-timers continuing in the company even today. The worst part was that these events actively damaged ongoing feuds and characters. The Saudi shows felt completely disconnected from ongoing storylines, and it looked like the matches existed in a bizarre parallel universe. This created a disjointed viewing experience for the few fans who were actually invested in the weekly product. Speaking of disjointed storylines, the Saudi shows were just the tip of the iceberg. Back on the main roster, WWE's inability to book meaningful feuds became glaringly obvious. Seth Rollins, fresh off his triumphant WrestleMania victory, was about to enter a chapter of his career so bad that he had to undergo a complete gimmick change. If you wanted a perfect example of how WWE could take their hottest babyface and completely kill his momentum, look no further than Seth Rollins in 2019. Coming out of WrestleMania 35, Rollins was on fire. He just conquered Brock Lesnar in a dominant performance, and Raw finally had a full-time world champion that fans could rally behind. But instead of capitalizing on Rollins' white-hot momentum, WWE immediately threw him into a feud with Baron Corbin. For months, fans had to endure the Universal Champion, the top guy on Monday Night Raw, trading wins and losses with a mid-card heel whose biggest character trait was being generically annoying. The feud reached a new low at Stomping Grounds, a pay-per-view so poorly received that half the arena was literally tarped off due to poor ticket sales. The main event featured Rollins defending his Universal Championship against Corbin, with Lacey Evans serving as special guest referee. However, the Corbin feud was just the beginning of Rollins' 2019 nightmare. The company seemed determined to strip away everything that made Seth appealing as a character. The badass who had dominated Brock Lesnar was suddenly cowering in fear from The Fiend. Rollins' Twitter feud with Will Ospreay in 2019, while not directly WWE's fault, made their top champion look petty and immature when he should have been above such nonsense. The booking got so bad that when Rollins finally faced The Fiend at Hell in a Cell, fans were actively rooting against the supposed top babyface of the company. WWE had taken their most popular full-time champion and systematically destroyed everything that made him special. But if Rollins' booking was bad, it was nothing compared to what WWE had in store for his Shield brother and their supposed franchise player. Roman Reigns' booking in 2019 was a clinic in how to make your supposed top star look like a complete joke. Fresh off his emotional return from
Who was the one that was writing the storyline? Because they were doing a horrible job.
leukemia, WWE somehow managed to book Roman into the most ridiculous storylines imaginable. The year's most bizarre chapter began with what can only be described as a failed murder mystery. Scaffolding was mysteriously falling on Reigns backstage, his car was getting destroyed in parking lots, and someone was literally trying to unalive Roman Reigns. After months of speculation involving everyone from Samoa Joe to Buddy Murphy, the big reveal ended up being Eric Rowan. The forgettable Wyatt family member was apparently a criminal mastermind bent on destroying the big dog because he wanted to break free from being Daniel Bryan's puppet. But the murder mystery was just the appetizer for the main course of Roman's stupid booking. Baron Corbin, WWE's go-to guy for killing crowd reactions, decided that since Roman called himself the big dog, he must literally be a dog. The logical conclusion for Corbin was to feed Roman actual dog food on live TV. And that's exactly what happened. The company's franchise player, a former world champion, was literally fed dog food on live television in one of the most stupid segments of all time. However, that wasn't even the worst part of the feud. Corbin hired someone to dress up in a dog costume, complete with a remixed version of Roman's entrance music in one of the cringiest segments in history. Throughout all of this, Roman never felt like the top guy. Despite his positioning on the card and his obvious push, the booking made him feel like a mid-card comedy act stuck in nonsensical feuds with Baron Corbin. The sad part is that this was supposed to be Roman.
This is so trash. I don't even watch WWE, but like this is trash.
His triumphant return after his absence due to leukemia, but instead of conquering mountains, he was quite literally rolling around in dog food. But it wasn't just Reigns and Rollins. Ambrose's booking got so bad he literally quit the company. As if WWE wasn't doing enough damage to their current roster, 2019 also marked the end of one of the most successful factions in modern wrestling history. Dean Ambrose's departure from WWE became another example of the company's pettiness when stars decided to leave. Rather than giving Ambrose a proper send-off, WWE spent his final months systematically burying him. They had him lose meaningless matches, cut promos about how much he hated the WWE Universe, wear a goofy Bane mask, get injections in his butt on live TV, and generally treated him like damaged goods on his way out the door. The Shield's final chapter special on April 21st felt more like a funeral than a celebration. And by the time Ambrose walked away, his character had been so thoroughly damaged that he had to morph back into Jon Moxley when he signed with AEW. But even after Ambrose's departure, the real disasters of 2019 were just getting started. The Hell in a Cell match between Seth Rollins and The Fiend wasn't just bad, it was historically awful. The red lighting made it impossible for fans to see what was happening, and the booking made no sense. The Fiend could use mallets and other weapons, but when Seth retaliated with a sledgehammer, the referee called for a stoppage in Hell in a Cell, a structure specifically designed for no disqualification battles. The match ended in a no contest, with frustrated fans literally chanting for refunds and AEW. But perhaps the most heartbreaking moment of 2019 was what happened to Kofi Kingston. After the feel-good story of Kofi Mania captivated audiences at WrestleMania, WWE decided to end his 180-day WWE Championship reign in the most deflating way possible. Kofi Kingston's journey to WWE Champion was the kind of organic, feel-good story that wrestling fans live for. His 6-month reign saw him defend the title against names like Daniel Bryan, Samoa Joe, Randy Orton, and others. The New Day member had finally reached the mountaintop after 11 years of hard work, and fans were genuinely rooting for his success. He could have went on to turn heel. He could have feuded against his New Day brothers. He could have gone on to become a key player on the main event scene, but instead, WWE decided to end his reign in the most soul-crushing way imaginable. On SmackDown's 20th anniversary special in October, Brock Lesnar squashed Kofi Kingston in 8 seconds so that WWE could book Lesnar versus Cain Velasquez in Saudi and make quick money. Over a decade of hard work ended with one F5 and a pin. The worst part is that Kofi never got his rematch. WWE moved on as if Kofi Mania had never happened, and the New Day member fell back into the tag team division.
Again, so trash, man.
But if
So
Kofi's
trash.
story was heartbreaking, the fumbling of Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey was straight up infuriating. This should have been the easiest money match in WWE history. The man versus the baddest woman on the planet in a dream one-on-one encounter that fans had been clamoring for since Rousey's debut. Instead, WWE managed to overcomplicate the story by throwing Charlotte Flair into the mix. The build was a masterclass in how not to book a marquee match. They added unnecessary stipulations, convoluted storylines, and turned what should have been a straightforward war between two badass women into a confusing mess. The WrestleMania 35 main event, while historic for being the first women's match to headline the show, felt underwhelming compared to what could have been. Even Kurt Angle's retirement match became a disappointment when WWE decided that Baron Corbin, yes, Baron Corbin again, should be the one to retire the Olympic hero. One of the greatest wrestlers of all time deserved better than a forgettable send-off against WWE's least charismatic performer of the year. But speaking of performers who ruined great moments, no discussion of 2019's failures would be complete without addressing the Shane McMahon problem.
Ooh.
If 2019 had an unofficial MVP for worst performer, Shane McMahon would win by a landslide. After winning the meaningless Best in the World tournament in 2018, Shane descended into absolute madness and became the most overexposed non-wrestler in WWE history. What started as occasional appearances by the boss's son turned into a nightmare scenario where entire episodes of Raw and SmackDown revolved around Shane's ego-driven storylines. The Shane McMahon Show reached its peak absurdity when he began entering every arena to the sounds of Greg Hamilton nearly passing out while announcing him as the
best in the world.
The crowd reactions weren't cheers
What?
or even traditional heel heat. They were groans of exhaustion from fans who were sick of seeing the same nonsense week
2019, WWE's cringiest fucking year.
after week. His storylines made no logical
What?
sense. He had a rivalry with The Miz that somehow lasted months. He hired Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin as his personal enforcers. And most bizarrely, he decided to target Roman Reigns in a feud that did nothing but waste everyone's time. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of Shane's 2019 dominance was the backstage rumor that WWE seriously considered putting the WWE Championship on him. But even Shane's overexposure paled in comparison to the more bizarre personal storylines that WWE inexplicably decided to air on national television. Just when you thought WWE couldn't
I'm just thinking about this. This all happened within the same year.
possibly make Raw and SmackDown more uncomfortable to
In the
watch,
same year.
2019 delivered some of the most cringe-inducing personal storylines in wrestling history. The year was littered
I
with
just
awkward
said that. I'm like, 2019, WWE's
relationship
cringiest
angles
year.
that made fans reach for their remote controls, but none were more painful than the love triangle between Rusev, Lana, and Bobby Lashley. The storyline began with Lana announcing on live television that she wanted a divorce from Rusev because she had fallen in love with Bobby Lashley. What followed was weeks of uncomfortable segments featuring Lana and Lashley making out in the middle of the ring and celebrating their relationship while Rusev played the role of the helpless ex-husband. The feud kept getting worse
What?
with a wedding segment that saw Liv Morgan get involved and profess her love for Lana. But the Rusev-Lana debacle wasn't the only relationship angle that made fans uncomfortable. The Mike Kanellis and Maria storyline somehow managed to be even
I'm
more bizarre.
uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable, and I haven't fucking. I wasn't even watching WWE. Like recently, I started because I'm doing these reactions, but like,
Maria announced
Oh
on
my
live
gosh.
television that she was pregnant, then proceeded to emasculate her real-life husband Mike by declaring that she wished Becky Lynch had impregnated her instead because she's more of a man than Mike. The angle continued with Maria berating Mike for being weak and unsuccessful while she was pregnant with their child. WWE in 2019 was a year that tested the loyalty of even the most dedicated wrestling fans. The most frustrating part was that WWE made nearly $1 billion that year, proving that financial success doesn't always translate to good television. But let me know what you think. Which is the worst year in WWE history in your opinion?
Ooh, greatest year in WWE history. If you guys want me to watch that video, let me know. But yeah, this was one of the dumbest, the most cringiest, the most useless piece of story that I have seen, just by this explanation on its own. I'm thinking, why did they eat? Who? First off, who was the writers? Who was the people that were writing this shit? And number two, why did they go along with contract? I believe it was bound to a contract. So, but like, they must have even thought, what, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.